Welcome to the What is Stoicism podcast.
Thank you for joining me for this episode of the What is Stoicism podcast. This is your host, Alan, speaking. Something a little different for today's episode. I am welcoming 9 guest contributors who each submitted their answers to the question, what does Stoicism mean to you? The guests all introduced themselves and where they can be found online, and they're all well versed in Stoic practice, so they've all submitted interesting and insightful answers, as I knew they would. So without any further ado, I'll hand over to my guests. I hope you enjoy their answers.
Hello everyone, my name is Enda Harte. I am a practicing Stoic. I write about Stoicism and other philosophies online, and I'm also an editor of Stoicism Philosophy as a Way of Life on Medium. You can find all of my writings on endaharte.net and on social media, either at endaharte or at the Irish Stoic. So today I've been asked to give a description of what Stoicism means to me. I think, it's a very easy question to answer, actually. Stoicism is a fantastic philosophy. It's probably, after a little bit of research, my favourite of the Hellenistic philosophies. Such a practical way of living. Not being overly religious myself, I've used Stoicism over the last 6-7 years as a way to bolster myself and hold myself accountable for living well, trying to be a good person, and trying to make some kind of impact, I guess, in the world, or at least not leaving a trail of misery and destruction in my way. I work in the electronic music industry. I've been able to travel to far corners of the world over the last 10 years, and with that industry being quite heavy, fast paced, and there being essentially a lot of temptation there as well. Stoicism really has grounded me to make sure that I am trying to do my best in every situation. And as far as the debate of right and wrong goes, I feel like it helps you stay on the right side of things. There's a lot of great things you can take away from Stoicism and a lot of practices. And anyone who's listening to this and is a little bit unsure or needs some further guidance, all it takes is a simple Google search of Stoic practices to make sure that you can start getting something down or get something written down. But yeah, since Stoicism is a philosophy of virtue and virtue ethics, and it's very much concerned with ethics in the modern age. It's a philosophy that you could split into 3 parts, which are logic, physics, and ethics. But I think most of us in the modern age, and well, certainly of my generation, are focusing on the ethical part just to see how you can focus on living better. But if you break it down, there's 4 cardinal virtues, which are wisdom, justice, courage, temperance, moderation. That's similar way of looking at it. And I certainly do try to live by that, especially pertaining to areas of courage and social justice in today's society, especially what we're facing at the moment. So I use Stoicism on a daily basis. It's a part of my practice concerning mortality, overcoming fear, anxiety, even bouts of grief, putting myself forward. Even probably 5 years ago, I probably wouldn't even be here now speaking on this podcast, but it's really given me a chance to bolster myself forward. And some people who maybe are new to the philosophy, you might not know a lot about it, or you might be thinking, well, this is maybe a little bit strange, looking at all of the ancients from the past. We're getting all this information essentially from ancient Greece and Rome, but I can assure you there are a lot of modern writers and authors out there who have really, I guess, propelled the philosophy into the 21st century and have retained it. And luckily I've been able to interact with a lot of these people, which is amazing. And all you have to do is a quick Google search or on social media, and you'll find these genuine authors, writers, academics, and bloggers who really put the time and effort into keeping this ancient philosophy alive. But honestly, for me, Stoicism really holds me to accountability for trying to be a better person, for trying to be, I guess, go that little bit further in life to help people, or to, get rid of thoughts of negativity, overarching negativity, or real bad anxiety as I had when I was a lot younger. It's quite psychological in a way when you look into it, and there certainly can be comparisons drawn to cognitive behavioral therapy, which is another area I'm very interested in. But certainly I would really recommend it. It's not a cult, it's not a set of doctrines that you have to stick to and you don't have to worry about being perfect. There's no such thing as perfection, in my opinion. You have to work towards things in your life to become a little bit better at each step of the way. I would highly recommend checking out anything online about Stoicism. I think for any person of any age, level, regardless of what place you find yourself in the world, or where you find yourself in the arches of society, it's a philosophy for everyone. It truly is. I would be completely lost without it. I hope this short description has helped you. As I said before, if you want to learn any more, I'm currently actually writing a series on Stoic practices, which are just practical exercises that you can get stuck right into. I also write about the history of the philosophy, and I'm currently writing a book on the psychology and Stoic practice behind mortality, grief, and anxiety. It's a very important section that I want to focus on later over the years. But definitely keep going with Stoicism if you've only started. Don't let it overwhelm you. There's a lot of theory out there as well, but there's a lot of people who've cut straight to the bone and get down to the practicality behind the ethical side of Stoicism. So if that's where you want to be and you want to try and become a better person, there's where you need to start. I hope this has been useful. Thank you so much for having me. What is Stoicism? Great blog also. Take care, everyone, and I wish you well.
Hi, I'm Brittany Polat, co-founder of Stoicare and author of the forthcoming book, Journal Like a Stoic. You can find me online at stoicare.com or on Twitter at Brittany Polat. Here's my response to the question, what does Stoicism mean to you? Stoicism is a framework for living a good life. It's a way of being in the world, a way of shaping our inner experience to match our highest aspirations for ourselves. It's a set of guidelines underlying our three primary relationships, to ourselves, to other people, and to the wider world around us. And it's a theoretical and practical toolbox for finding meaning and deep contentment in a complex universe. Wherever you are and whatever you're doing, when the going gets tough, Stoicism is there to guide you.
Hi, my name is Henry Manampiring. I'm from Jakarta, Indonesia. I'm the author of best-selling Indonesian book on Stoicism. You can find me on Twitter at newsplatter. It's like a platter of news. So Stoicism to me is an operating system. Think of your life as a smartphone. It has apps, application, like career, relationship, family, health, etc., etc. Now, in order for these apps, in quote, to run smoothly, they need an operating system that is running in the background. Now, Stoicism can be that operating system. It is a rational way of life that strives towards virtues. Now, if we have this operating system running constantly in the background, in whatever we do, at any time of the day, it can surely help us to live different aspects of our life to our best. So that's Stoicism to me, an operating system for daily living.
Hello, my name is Jamie Ryder, and I am a copywriter and marketer who is on a mission to make philosophy sexy, or at least down to earth enough where people can feel comfortable to share their own philosophy and values with the world. I run a website and brand called Stoic Athenium, where I combine copywriting, content marketing, and ancient ideas to try to make them fun and accessible. Stoicism to me is about being appropriate with your emotions. It's about learning how to regulate your emotions appropriately. And to me, it was a complete game changer in how I see the world, particularly around my own mental health and how it makes you more self-aware of other people in your community, in the world. Stoic techniques are very easy to implement, and the they are easy to repeat. The hard thing comes from doing them again and again, but that's part of it to me. It's remembering that you can use them wisely and you can use them to reframe your situations. And that's why I love the idea of the live in accordance with nature aspect of Stoicism as well. What I take that to mean is living in accordance with your own nature, with human nature, nature as a whole, the wider cosmopolis, the world, and how you apply your values and your beliefs to the people around you to try to uplift them and to tolerate people that you might not always get on with. But Stoicism is always a framework to refer back to no matter what you're feeling, and that's what I love about it so much.
Hi, everyone. My name is Michael McGill. By vocation, I am a CIO, a Chief Information Officer, and I've been in technology for 20 plus years now. By avocation, I am a practicing Stoic, or at least it's one of my avocations. I've been practicing Stoicism for about 8 years now or so. I'll kind of roughly put it at that amount of time. That was about the time that I read The Obstacle is the Way by Ryan Holiday, which was my introduction to Stoicism. Kind of, as I said, found I had a Stoicism shaped hole that I didn't even know about, and just the philosophy fit me and suited me. And then I just really loved it. So I really went down the rabbit hole. And for the last 8 years, been reading about it, still read about it. I write stuff about it. You can find me online. Probably Twitter's the best place to start. My handle is @McGillMD921. But over the last couple of years, I started creating some content about Stoicism. And for me, what is Stoicism? Maybe it's a bit of my tech background, but I consider Stoicism to be an operating system for life. Like the operating system, kind of controls and manages the computer, and gives the computer instruction on, kind of how to perform what it's supposed to do. It's really what Stoicism has become for me. It's like my operating system for life. It kind of sets the framework of how I go about my day. I kind of bookend my day with Stoicism. I start by reading a Stoic passage, and then I'll end the day doing some journaling using some Stoic techniques. But really, and then throughout the middle of the day, most of what happens to me runs through a Stoic filter where I ask myself if I can control it or I can't control it. Ask myself if I can do a better job of accepting what's going on around me. Am I being objective? Am I managing my emotions appropriately? And am I choosing healthy responses to the situations of my life? And, since I've started practicing Stoicism, my life has just been much happier. Before Stoicism, I kind of look back and I look at the things I used to get upset about or angry about or nervous about or sad about. And just so much of it was really outside of my control. So unlike the, kind of the misperception of Stoicism, I don't use Stoicism to control my emotions or not be emotional. But I do use it to help me manage my emotions and help me to make more effective decisions throughout the course of my day and of my life. And because of that, I like to think of Stoicism, again, as an operating system for life.
My name is Ranjini George, and I teach at the School of Continuing Studies, University of Toronto, and I teach classes such as Stoicism and the Good Life, Mindfulness, Stoicism for Discipline and Productivity, and also in the Creative Writing program. Now, Stoicism has really helped me in so many different ways, and I came to it from my study of philosophies such as Buddhism and Hinduism. And for this short little podcast, I'd like to actually focus on how Stoicism has helped me with the topic of discipline. First, it teaches me that this is a daily practice. So every single day, I look at what are my core values, what kind of human being I would like to be. It also encourages self-reflection and self-inquiry. And I express this through journaling. And if you remember Seneca's words, Seneca said, don't go to bed at night until you've actually asked yourself these different questions. And we look at Pythagoras in his golden verses, how did I do today? What could I have done better? And what did I leave out? It also reminds me as a daily practice to focus on gratitude. And if we think of Marcus Aurelius's Meditations and book 1 of the Meditations, which is really an exercise in gratitude, looking at what people have given him. The second is the discipline of compassion. Compassion is something that we train ourselves towards, looking outwards beyond the me. We train ourselves to think of others. In Buddhism, it's called the bodhicitta practice. And it also includes self-love, looking at ourselves, loving ourselves, but also working on areas of improvement. And then the discipline, third, is the discipline of work. If you think of the Meditations, Marcus Aurelius says, work, without being weighed down by secondary considerations, which, like fame and success and money, and let the work be its own reward. And we do our work as a human being. You get out of bed in the morning and do your work, he says, as a Roman and as a man. And I tell myself as a Canadian Indian and a woman. And then we, of course, balance our work with other core values, like our values for families, our work, our volunteer work to the Cosmopolis, and so forth. And then the fourth is discipline of action. And when we think of this, it is important to use our time well, because every single day is a gift. As Seneca says, each day is a life. So we work against things like inertia, but we also look at what Thich Nhat Hanh, the Zen teacher, says, hurry sickness, which is we don't always want to be doing. So we have, our action is, what we look at our goals. What is this action motivated towards? Discipline towards consumerism, and that could be things, even the way we consume food. We think of the Stoic virtue of temperance, and we look at how we live our lives. The discipline of speech, and for me, I think of this often as the sixth discipline, the discipline of speech. Words are said very, very easily, and yet they have the potential to uplift or to create harm. So really looking at ourselves, and Stoicism in this focuses on our character. So as a person, even as Marcus Aurelius reminds us in book 2 of the Meditations, we may meet every morning, tell yourself, you may meet argumentative people, people who betray you in some way, but what kind of character do you want to have? What kind of speech? So I think of it as loving speech, kind speech, and yet, speaking our truth.
Hello, my name is Kasey Pierce, and I'm the editor of 365 Ways to Be More Stoic by Tim LeBon, one of the editors on Donald Robertson's graphic novel Verissimus, The Stoic Philosophy of Marcus Aurelius, as well as a Stoic columnist on Medium, which you can find at Kasey, Kasey, redpen.medium.com. You can also find me on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Stoicism is a set of tools that teach us how to take a fall, how to take a hit mentally, emotionally. That's not to say we are to be consistently bracing for the fall, because that would mean living in irrational fear of it happening. Much like when we fall physically and extend our arm out to break the fall, it may result in more damage if we do so. If we meditate on the tools, though, to desaturate the effects of things like abrupt change, heartache, or other misfortunes or externals we had no control over, we will possess the power to decide to what extent it affects us. We can decide how to feel about it. Stoics argue there is nothing more adaptable than the human soul, and so we have an innate ability to endure and adapt to pain. Let there fall externally what will on the parts which can feel the effects of this fall. For those parts which have felt will complain, if they choose. But I, unless I think what has happened is an evil, am not injured, and it is in my power not to think so. Marcus Aurelius, Meditation 7:14. Stoics do feel pain, but do not revel in it, saturating themselves in it. Rather, they shift their focus on what's next, knowing that this too shall pass just as previous pains before it. It helps us to put reserves in the tank for the emotions that are worthwhile to revel in, like joy and a zest for life.
Hello all, my name is Lydia Scratch and I'm based in Calgary in Canada. I'm a sweary Stoic coach who works with clients to help them calm the F down using tried and trusted Stoic techniques. As a trained and irreverent life coach, I work with people all over the world to help them focus on what they can control, how to take life as it happens, and to remember to live for today. I can be found online at www.stoicsolutionscoaching.com, where you can book a free 30-minute session to chat about if I can help you calm the F down. I can also be found on Twitter at CoachLydia_CTFD. In terms of what the philosophy means to me, Stoicism is the recipe to living a good life. Recipes list ingredients and provide instructions that, if followed, result in deliciousness, just like Stoicism. Stoicism's ingredients are the 4 cardinal virtues: wisdom, courage, temperance, though I prefer the term self-mastery, and justice. And the recipe instructions are the fundamental tenets of Stoicism. 1, determine if something is in your control or not. If it is, do something about it. If it isn't, let it go. 2, the present moment is all we really have control over, right here, right now. Focusing on the future can bring on anxiety, and focusing on the past can bring on depression. 3, there is no inherently good or bad in nature. There are only our perceptions. Shakespeare wrote in Hamlet that there is nothing either good or bad, but thinking makes it so. And this helps us reconsider our impressions. What are we loading on them? Is that true? And 4, accept whatever life throws at us. Treat everything that happens as something to be embraced, not avoided, because it happened. And we can't make whatever it is unhappen. One of my coaching catchphrases is, life doesn't happen to you, life just happens. So follow the instructions using the listed ingredients, and you've created a good life. It can be that simple. But cookbooks and cooking programs abound because simple doesn't mean easy. And the same goes for Stoicism. There is so much information available about how and why Stoicism is the bomb, from the 2,000-year-old works of the original Stoics to the many websites and podcasts that exist today, like What is Stoicism? Another similarity between recipes and Stoicism. Recipes are designed to be put into action to produce deliciousness. And the same is with Stoicism. It is not meant to be read and thought about alone. It is designed to be put into action to produce not deliciousness, but eudaimonic awesomeness. So that's what Stoicism means to me. Practical and eudaimonic happiness when put into action.
My name is Brandon Tumblin, the host of the Strong Stoic podcast. Stoicism to me means something like strength. Strength I would define as the ability to resist load. Now that load can take the form of a weight in the gym or responsibility in life. It can also be considered, though, as the burden of life in and of itself. Life is hard and full of suffering. Every Stoic knows that much. Stoicism is a philosophy as a way of life that aims to provide an antidote to that suffering. And it's quite simple in many ways. Stoicism states that the antidote to life suffering is to be a good person, to have a good character. And what does it mean to have a good character? Well, we could say that it's someone that is just, wise, courageous, and temperate. But this character must also act for the common good. It must be aligned with your personal nature, the nature of those around you, and the nature of the cosmos herself. Now, how you do that in practice is by adopting responsibility. But the word in that definition of strength, the ability to resist load, that I must highlight is resist. It implies that there's a struggle there, that you are adequately taking on enough load, but it also speaks to the nature of Stoicism. We resist our bodily desires. We resist the pull to conform to the crowd, the temptations to resentment. We resist the fear within us, pushing us into cowardice. The list goes on. But we could sum it up as Stoics resist the pull to a bad character despite the existential load of our tragic existence. There are two purposes of strength. The first is to lift yourself up, and the second is to lift others up.